A Fox News alert. Former President Donald Trump speaking exclusively with Fox News after being hit with 3 new charges in Special Counsel Jack Smith's classified records probe. The Biden Justice Department accusing Trump of attempting to delete surveillance footage at Mar-a-Lago. You're watching Fox and Friends First. Here on a Friday morning, I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carly Shimkus. The 2024 Republican frontrunner now faces up to 140 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Overnight, he asked whatever happened to the crooked Joe Biden documents case. He had 20 times more boxes than I did, and he wasn't covered by the Presidential Records Act. I was. Brooke Singman is here with her exclusive reporting on this story. Brooke, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. That's right. Special Counsel Jack Smith bringing 3 new felony charges against President Donald Trump in the indictment filed against him and his aide, Walt Nauta, over his handling of classified documents. Now, yesterday's filing also bringing charges to a 3rd defendant as prosecutors now accuse the former president of asking the head of maintenance at his Mar-a-Lago club, Carlos de Oliveira, to delete security camera footage. Now, de Oliveira faces charges for conspiracy to obstruct justice. President Trump telling me exclusively, quote, "It is election interference at the highest level. They're harassing my company, they're harassing my family, and by far, least importantly of all, they're harassing me." He said the charges are ridiculous, saying it is prosecutorial misconduct used at a level never seen before. Our country is suffering from DOJ abuse. Now, the latest charges brought against President Trump include 1 more count of willful retention of national defense information and 2 new obstruction counts. That's in addition to the pre-existing counts of conspiracy, false statements, and destroying documents, bringing that grand total to 41 criminal charges with the possibility of 140 years behind bars. Some lawmakers are calling out what they consider to be more evidence of corruption within the Biden Justice Department. Listen.
Is it any coincidence that the DOJ rushes to add these new indictments today after the Hunter debacle, after their own self-dealing and 2-timing is exposed, after they tried to hide from us the true extent of this plea deal? That gets blown up, and then it's like, oh, we got to go indict Trump on something else. I mean, it's so brazen right now what they're doing. It is really a subversion of the rule of law. I mean, they're taking the rule of law, turning it on its head.
Meanwhile, President Trump's staffer, the 3rd defendant to face charges in the classified documents probe, is set to appear in a Florida courtroom on Monday. Guys.
All right, Brooke Singman live for us. Thank you so much. With that, let's bring in Mark Smith, who is a constitutional attorney and former member of former President Trump's transition team. Mark, good morning to you. What do you think about this latest development regarding these additional charges?
Well, you know, as we've talked about this before, justice in America requires not just the actual process be fair, but the appearance of justice is equally important because the public is watching this. This is a criminal case, which means Americans have a stake in the outcome and how it's perceived. And certainly it does not look good, in my opinion, that the Department of Justice rushes out and brings this superseding indictment right after what happened in that Delaware courtroom, where I don't think DOJ looked particularly great with that Hunter Biden situation. So at one level, from a public perception point of view, the timing does not look great. Beyond that, keep in mind that every one of these additional counts that DOJ has brought is a potential legal landmine to them, because at some point you can overcharge someone to the point where if one of these counts blows up in front of a jury and hurts the credibility of the government, it could hurt the entire case. And every time you add another count, there are risks associated with the government's position.
I'm glad you mentioned that word landmine, because I see another potential landmine for the DOJ, and Carly alluded to it when she read Donald Trump's statement. With each charge either brought by Jack Smith or other DOJ attorneys, doesn't it bolster Trump's argument of this 2-tier system of justice? In other words, look at all these charges against me, and yet you have this special counsel, her, doing the same type of investigation involving Joe Biden's documents case, and we've heard crickets. What say you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you know, at some point it begins to look like it's piling on. Remember, at the end of the day, this is a documents case, and now we're starting to see charges involving what are known as, you know, procedural crimes, if you will. You know, this indictment of a low-level employee. Obviously, they're indicting these low-level employees. Why? Because they want them to flip and start to cooperate with the government. That's my best guess. That's what prosecutors do all the time. But yeah, I think the more they pile on Donald Trump, and when you compare it, remember, Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI in contrast, Joe Biden's home was never raided. And keep in mind the documents that Joe Biden had, he procured when he was not the president of the United States. In contrast, Donald Trump got these documents as the president, and he is uniquely situated because he's actually a constitutional officer under the U.S. Constitution itself with special powers as the commander-in-chief. Joe Biden never had that during the relevant time periods, and yet no one's invading his home, no one's raiding his home, he's not been indicted. So yeah, I think, again, from a public perception point of view, it does look like there's two standards going on here. And when you're the Department of Justice, public perception is extremely important because you really want people to trust the rule of law in our country.
Yeah, I understand the perception of it, but legally, the allegation is that he ordered his head of maintenance to delete security camera footage that federal officials were asking to look at. That sounds like a serious allegation to me. What do you think about that? And is there an avenue where he could fight that?
Well, the charge is specifically what's known as an attempt crime, which means you attempted to do something, but you didn't succeed. So here, according to the indictment, there are allegations that there were conversations about whether or not to delete security footage that arose after a draft. I repeat, a draft subpoena was somehow made. They were made aware of a draft subpoena involving these tapes. Now, yes, I don't think it looks great that this were to have happened, but at the end of the day, an attempt crime requires not just that there be an intent to commit a crime, but there was a substantial step taken to accomplish that. The question is going to be here for a jury to decide whether or not conversing and discussing possibly removing these tapes, whether or not that's sufficient of a material step to go along with the intent to commit the crime. Because you have to do more than just think about it. You have to do something about it. And there is a threshold there that the jury's going to have to decide.
And let's also be clear to note that these extra charges will, in all likelihood, push this case beyond the May trial date, May 2024, that has been put out there, because the more charges you add, the more classified clearances you need. Those take time. We're looking after November 2024. Mark Smith, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.